Here's a document of how I paint. Normally, let's see, for years when I painted that one, I only used a brush like, I think this might be the exact size. This one I used for the elephants. So I would only use that one brush to do everything. And then I tried shrinking it down, and I'd use a smaller one. Now I use a brush like this that I will custom shape. I will cut it myself with a razor blade to get the exact shape that I need so that I can get textures like that. You get these sharp lines, and then it also provides texture work at the same time, and it takes a long time to do that. But for this guy, I'm going to use this brush, which I've had for a very long time, probably 10 years. I've never really used it because these brushes have hard bristles, and you can see when you get close. Where's a good spot to have correct it? Right there. You can kind of see where the paint. You have very little control of the paint with a brush like this because the bristles are so rough. And so this one I even reshaped too. And I've never done a wet on wet oil, so I'm experimenting holistically with this guy because I want to. You can see how it creates those lines there and drags through the paint that you have to go back later and correct. So I thinned out the brush. You see I cut it. It's a lot thinner at a point there. And one side can lay down smooth. Then you can also twist it. You can use the corner of it. And then you get these like nice hairlined mixturing and texturing that. And this is his coat, so the whole coat's basically just brown. So you can do whatever you want there and have fun with the painting for this guy. I've been waiting for him for a long time to paint him. So probably shouldn't have. I ended up drinking a lot of whiskey last night, and this is what I have to go back and try to make my work look a little bit more presentable. But it was nice to just not over pressure myself. You can, because that painting I'm gonna look at for the rest of my life. I love that painting though. I look at the older style of like the thick brush lines and stuff. I don't like that anymore. I like it in that painting, but I don't want to paint like that anymore. And then you get into that, which can take so long that, like here, that always kind of bugs me, but it's painted in so many different lights that you can light him in different ways to create unique aspects and different contrast ratios. But with this guy, I just went for it. No structure, no gridding out. Normally I just draw the circles and then I paint the squares. But this guy, he's a special case and why I want to paint him. And it's not Stephen Hawking. I'll never say who he is, but when I saw him, I knew that he would be my next painting. So like the sort of chaoticness of what I'm trying to achieve with him is, right now it's just a shirt trying to, because when you step back it does kind of look like a shirt, but then I changed it a little. Maybe I ruined the depth that I created, but it looks so shitty up close. So this is wet. And I'll do all sorts of weird stuff. You don't need to. You can put so much pressure on yourself that you can't even make the painting. But I like to attempt to mix on canvas, because then you get that fresh texturing if you get it just right. You know where to stop to what feels good in your eyes when you look at it. And does that kind of look like a collar? And it's getting darker next to his neck here. And that's the other side of the collar. And this is pretty much just fair game. You can do whatever you want there to just enjoy texture work and whatever my mind creates. So now we're just trying to, I'm really winging it with this one. I'm breaking all my old rules. I don't want to just trust the process anymore. I want to just enjoy painting. And I designed rules that would prevent me from because you can have too much chaos with something like this, that if you have too much, then you get something that the eyes don't even want to look at, really. And being I'll just do this over and over again, try to create something different throughout. It's really fun to start twisting the brush too, because when you start twisting it, then you get these weird things that you don't anticipate. But I figured it'd be fun to just make a short video explaining a little, one or two things. And just, brown is one of the most unpleasant colors. You need different hues of brown, not only for a brown jacket, but since skin color requires a lot of brown, it's a very difficult color to contrast with, and ends up kind of looking like mud in a way. So going back to the old fragile, subtle contrasting, where the dark colors. So I would always say that, you know, green's a dark color. Right? It's dark green. It's dark. It's not a vibrant color. Will it look like a shirt? I don't know. So I don't want to just limit myself like I used to. I want to try to create something that, like the mind of this poor guy, has been tortured by his mind his whole life. Can represent the essence of the texturing and what it means to be mad. And yet be something worth looking at. It isn't just completely fucking nonsense. It's basically a little bit darker here. It's always fun to like do stuff with switches like that, but eventually you have to fill in the whole canvas. Once you start filling in all those switches and you don't have enough contrasting, you don't get the full blending effect, which then takes layers. So that's why I do that like that. That one, you have to do layer by layer to get the dramatic depth to it, which takes years to do. To finish that painting it's taken me, because then you get too much blending here, see? Or something like that. The gray's just coming out way too quickly. Just instant gray. And the whole thing needs to be darkened, but it's an example of how you gotta know how the color is going to change on the canvas and predict that. Without then screwing up the singular textures that originally made you draw your eye to that section. So, like I said, this is basically pointless in the entire image, since it's just a coat. A brown blob needs to be interesting to look at. And when you start changing, you know, your field of view, where you're standing at, what angle you're looking at the painting, it needs to always draw some sort of spark. And if you look at it, I can't record it very well here. If you look at the painting from the sides, how does it start changing? And how does it start adding more depth? Does the depth still maintain a three-dimensional view to your eyeballs? So you might look at it from a second floor. Does it look like the way that you textured it is creating some sort of depth in how it reflects light? It does for me, but I see in 3 dimensions, which is always really silly to say. I see like a 3D movie, the way that people are supposed to see images pop out, they pop out to me. So I can't ever be afraid to just have an ugly blob. And then you can go back and make something so small and minute. Purple first. Autopilot there. Sometimes I'll do that. Yeah, the purple does not work for this. But you can make something so small and minute that it won't actually change the image. But then as you get closer to it, then you start to see all these little tiny little textures. Things that you won't see this far away, but then you get close, and it keeps looking more and more interesting. And that's my philosophy on creating three perspectives for a painting. That is what I used to always call eye sex. Because the greatest paintings don't just look good far away, they don't just look like an image far away, they look like something worth looking at from every perspective. And I studied Monet's exhibit. I really got to experience one of my favorite painters, not only from my viewpoints of studying art, but also how he wanted to create his visions and how people could some of his work. One of his paintings was it's the stone archway, but the way that he took the paint, he took huge globs, he created waves, and the paint itself looked like waves. It was the greatest ocean scene I've ever probably seen in person, where it just looked like waves. So when I'm trying to create these colors, I hope that when you draw out the face, it's one reason why I draw it out freehand. That way I can actually know the image. I can know why that adds depth there. I can know why this looks like a wrinkle. And use a little bit of imagination, you know. If I just had some paint there, though, I could even create more depth and wrinkle to his face. And it helps you, get acquainted with what you're going to do, rather than just simply freehanding, which is always fun too. Normally I don't ever share a painting before it's almost done, or even in the process of making a painting. I always show them when they're done, and slowly when they're done. Just be dark right now. It's like black, pitch black right up there. Hair. Seriously. I don't know where this hair comes from. So now we're getting to the face, and that probably has more fragility. What? Where is this hair coming from? There's no hair on the picture. But his collar is a sort of salmon color. With a black, dark brown shadowing. Right next to his face. And this comes out. This is his neck. I need to work up the squares too. He's still gonna have the squares for it to be one of mine. Just be complete nonsense. On the phone, contrasting is a little weird on my phone. Doesn't look like it's supposed to. See what I'll see compared to the video. Because the video is picking up more texture from the canvas itself than it looks like in person. You can see darker, lighter, and there will be certain gaps, and I can come back with other contrasting colors and fill in what hasn't been painted yet. And since it looks like farthest away, maybe the shoulder up here could be, added a little bit, trying to create more shoulder, but you keep it blurry. That's another thing, is I always close my eyes. Keep it blurry, then I think it kind of looks like a collar. I haven't done that yet, but that's next.